Hello everyone! The closed beta test for version 5.2 will start tomorrow, and we'll finally be able to see CHASCA and Ororon's gameplay. But today, we have complete information about her kit and playstyle, including her skills, burst, talents, constellations, and her signature weapon. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. The source of this information is X1 and Sealy Leaks, and it was also reposted by PTL and Fowl, so it's reliable but still subject to change during the beta. Starting with her normal, charged, and plunging attacks. Her normal attack is called Feathered Strike, and she can perform up to 4 consecutive bow shots. During the charged attack, she performs a more precise aimed shot with increased damage, similar to Ganyu. While aiming, strong winds gather on the arrowhead, as we saw in Shalonen's trailer. Fully charged arrows will deal anemo damage. During the plunge attack, she fires a shower of arrows in midair before striking the ground, dealing AoE damage upon impact, which sounds similar to Amber's burst. Moving on to her elemental skill called Soulbind Pursuit. CHASCA resonates with the will dwelling within the weapon, unleashing AoE anemo damage that is Night Soul aligned. Upon casting, CHASCA gains 80 Night Soul energy and enters the Night Soul infusion state. In this state, CHASCA consumes Night Soul energy continuously, and the Night Soul infusion ends when the energy is depleted or the skill is cast again. In the Night Soul infusion state, CHASCA gains some special effects. First, she rides the Spectral Spear Ritual Staff, increasing movement speed and resistance to interruption. In this state, CHASCA hovers, consuming Night Soul energy to keep flying. Similar to Wanderer's energy bar, dashing or ascending consumes additional Night Soul energy or fuel. When performing normal or charged attacks, based on tap or hold, CHASCA performs multi-aim attacks in different ways. In the tap version, she deals anemo damage that is Night Soul aligned to enemies in front, and this damage counts as normal attack damage. In the hold version, she enters aiming mode, loads the magazine, and targets a certain number of enemies within a certain range based on the charging time. Then, she fires up to 6 chasing bolts at the designated targets after charging. If held for an extended time, CHASCA completes the reload and fires X number of chasing bolts directly at the selected enemies. Moving on to her elemental burst called Soul Strike Assault. CHASCA focuses her will, firing a Windrend Soul Strike bolt, dealing AoE anemo damage that is Night Soul aligned. Afterward, the Windrend Soul Strike bolt splits into 6 Soul Seeker bolts that target nearby enemies. About the Soul Seeker bolts, they deal anemo DMG that is Night Soul aligned. For each Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, or Electro character in the party, 2 Soul Seeker bolts convert into Radiant Soul Seeker bolts of the corresponding element, dealing anemo damage that is Night Soul aligned with that element's properties. Moving on to her passive talents. Her first talent, Trick of the Bullets. When using multi-aim after casting her skill, if there are 1, 2, or 3 Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, or Electro characters in the team, there is a 33%, 67%, or 100% chance to trigger Spiritual Conversion, converting the 3rd chasing bolt loaded into the magazine into a Radiant chasing bolt of the corresponding element. I know it sounds confusing, but you'll get it after watching her gameplay, which should be out on Wednesday or Thursday. Her second talent, when a nearby character in the team triggers Night Soul Surge, CHASCA fires a blazing chasing bolt at nearby enemies, dealing anemo damage equivalent to 150% of the chasing bolt damage from her elemental skill. If there is a Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, or Electro character in the team, the blazing chasing bolt undergoes elemental conversion, dealing damage that is Night Soul aligned with the corresponding element, equivalent to 150% of the Radiant chasing bolt DMG from her skill. This damage is considered charged attack damage. Her third and last talent, Night Soul Blessing. Unyielding Heart. When Night Soul energy is depleted, CHASCA will consume fuel to maintain the Night Soul infusion state. In regions of Natlan with the fuel mechanism, Night Soul transfer can be triggered. When the active character is at a certain height, switching to CHASCA will trigger Night Soul infusion, granting her 32 Night Soul energy. The team can trigger Night Soul transfer once every 10 seconds. Additionally, while in the Night Soul infusion state, holding her skill will initiate a Night Soul aligned plunging attack. Releasing the skill will interrupt the plunging attack, allowing CHASCA to maintain hovering. If the plunging attack lands on the ground, the Night Soul infusion will end. This talent also increases the gliding movement speed of your team members by 15% and cannot stack with other passives, providing the exact same effect. Moving on to her Constellations. Her C1. When spiritual conversion is triggered while her first talent is active, the second chasing bolt loaded into the magazine also converts into a radiant chasing bolt. Additionally, the chance to trigger spiritual conversion is increased if there are 1, 2, or 3 pyro, hydro, cryo, or electro characters in the team, and the chance to trigger spiritual conversion becomes 66%, 100%, and 100%. Furthermore, the Night Soul energy and fuel consumption during CHASCA's Night Soul infusion state is reduced by 30% outside of combat. Her C2. When CHASCA's Radiant Chasing Bolt from the multi-aim in the Elemental skill hits an enemy, it deals AoE damage of the corresponding element based on the Radiant Chasing Bolt's element, equivalent to 400% of CHASCA's attack. This effect can only trigger once per multi-aim cast. Her C3 and C5 increase the level of her skill and burst talents by +3. Her C4. When the Radiant Soulseeker bolt from her burst hits an enemy, it restores 1.5 energy to CHASCA and deals AoE damage of the corresponding element based on the Radiant Soulseeker bolt's element, equivalent to 400% of CHASCA's attack. This effect can only trigger once per burst. Lastly, her C6. After triggering spiritual conversion from her first passive, CHASCA gains the Assault state. For the next 3 seconds, the next multi-aim used during her skill will instantly complete its charge, and its crit damage is increased by 120%. And at last, about her signature weapon. It has a base attack of 608 and a crit damage of 66.2% at level 90. As for its passives, after triggering a swirl reaction, it increases the user's attack by 24% for 12 seconds. Additionally, if there are at least 1 or 2 characters in the team with different elemental types from the wielder, charged attack damage is increased by 20% and 48%, and elemental burst DMG is increased by 10% and 24%. That was everything related to CHASCA's kit. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more updates.